Hello and welcome to Kramer's Corner with this special edition of Commodities, and we'll start with the Bloomberg Commoditiy Index future. But first I have to say this video is for educational purpose only. There's no recommendation or advice whatsoever intended. So let's have a look at Bloomberg Commoditiy Index. This is the daily chart. It's been an uptrend for, better part of the past 6 months. A lot of volatility lately, of course, especially due to the volatility we have seen in the precious metals market and in the and also in the oil market especially. And this is the daily chart, as we see, higher highs, but a little bit stressed now with the RSI value declining. If we are moving to the weekly chart, however, it is quite interesting what's going on. We have this like a rounded bottom here where we have this brim over here at this peak, and that's where we are at the moment. So I could imagine if this is a cup with a handle forming at the moment, we don't know that just yet, but if it is, well, then we would have the cup here, then we should have a bit of a correction going on here for quite a few weeks, and then the next move higher. So maybe that's what's going on. Again, we don't know that, but keep an eye on it. But we are quite stretched here on the weekly RSI. As we can see, we are up in the 80s, so quite stretched. So maybe we're in for a correction. Maybe it will come from both the metals market and from the especially the crude oil market. And if we're looking at the crude oil market, let's have a look at what's going on here. So of course it's driven by fear and rumors and everything and announcements from Iran and US president and so on. But here we have the WTI crude oil. Didn't challenge the peak up there, but 115 plus. It spiked above here this early morning, sitting back a little bit. We are in a bullish trend. However, it is stressed, as we can see here. We have some divergence. You can see the RSI declining from here to here, indicating uptrend exhaustion. However, we are in a bullish trend here also on the RSI above the falling trend line, forming a rising trend line there too. So let's see here. If it takes out the peak today, then it will seriously challenge the peak there at 119.48 and could push much higher. Looking at the Brent crude oil, big sideways range really here, just below 120 and above 95. So that's really what it needs to take out for a clear direction. Currently, we're setting back a little bit from the 61.8 retracement of this sell-off there, and it could be setting back a little bit further. There are some rumors or some stories that there are negotiations going on between Iran, the US, and some other independent parties. So let's see what that will lead to. Also, we can see here we are a little bit also some divergence here, RSI declining. The European NatGas sat back up until Easter this morning here, a little bit higher, bouncing about 5%, so a little bit elevated still. If it takes out 56.90, then uptrend is likely to resume with a push much higher. So, but in the bigger picture, and the bigger pictures, we can see where we're trying. A lot of volatility, obviously. A lot of volatility. A lot of big spreads between buyers and sellers. But we are up here where we were about a year ago, a little bit more than a year ago, in February last year. But if we're looking even further back, we have this on back of the Ukraine war when it started. So we are actually back now here in actually lower levels. So very volatile still there. The US NatGas, really boring actually. You can see sliding just lower, so they are not really that interesting to follow. Let's just recap on what we talked about gold this morning, and I looked at the gold spot. Now I'll have a look at the gold future and the futures in general. There shouldn't be that much difference. However, we do have 61.8 retracement there, just around 4,800, 4,810. Got rejected there at the correction, sitting back a little bit below the 100 moving average, then bouncing again. If it takes out the peak here from the past few days at 48.26, then I think we'll see a push up towards 5,000. However, we are still in a negative sentiment, could set back and if it takes out the lows here from the 2nd of April at 45.80, then expect a downtrend to resume. And that is what actually being indicated by the negative sentiment on the RSI. But let's see, everything can change, but this is really a key support. On the silver future, more or less the same picture, but it was only 50% correction and then turn around. So let's see, will it slide back or will it also push higher? And that will be key towards, if it takes out the peak there from the 1st of April at 7,627, expect uptrend. Moving on to the platinum future, well, more or less the same picture really as the other precious metals. We have palladium, so let's talk about palladium for a little bit. I think we could see it testing the 38.2 retracement here at 15.51, maybe pushing up to 16.25, where we have some stronger resistance and the 100 moving average here, but also it seems to be fairly strong bounce, but still negative sentiment, so be careful. We have the 55 moving average coming down. And let's just recap on copper while we are at it. Slowly crawling higher here. As long as it stays above 551, then it is in a little bit of bullish trend, but 55 moving average coming down there, still negative sentiment, so it can soon turn sour. Let's see if we'll do that or it will be crawling higher. Moving on to other commodities, we have the corn. Well, I won't talk about them that often, but what we can see here in bigger picture, a lot of volatility, obviously, a lot of spikes, but around 449, 450 key point seems to be here. I mean, it's not exactly 449 or 450, but in this region we have some support here, as we can see on the weekly. It's kind of a pivot point. If it starts sliding lower, it could slide back down to the around 435 area. If it bounces off here, well, then there is the uptrend is still intact. Higher high, higher low, higher high, higher low, higher high, and so on. And that seems to be crawling higher. Positive sentiment on the RSI, both daily and weekly. On the wheat front, more or less the same picture really. Although it got up a little bit higher here, got rejected at the 200 weekly moving average coming down. So it's really a little bit of setback, could set back to 580 if it takes out 575, when then we could see levels higher. But let's have a look at, just to give an indication, we can see we're trading around the 38.2 retracement, 50% down here, and we could actually sit back all the way to the 61.8 at 555. Not quite sure we'll do it. We have all moving averages coming up there. Soybeans, also very quickly, let's have a look. Basically in the bigger scheme or bigger range here, 1147, 1180, that's the range for soybean. It needs to break out. I think it will be to the upside, but again, I want confirmation. We have positive sentiment on the RSI, so it should be to the upside, but again, there's no guarantees. We have the coffee. Well, it's in a bearish trend, a little bit of a counter trend here, but seems to be setting back again, and I think it will keep being sent back. All moving averages declining below the cloud. Yes, we have positive sentiment there on the RSI, but I think it will change. Also here on the weekly, negative sentiment being rejected at the 100. I think we could see a setback to around 250. Robusta, well, it is already, it's like leading the other coffee future, and now below the 200 weekly moving average. It bounced off here. I didn't even touch it, but this time it could push lower to these lows here, just around 316, 320. And we all remember the hype. It was about a year ago and a bit more on the cocoa front, but it has since totally collapsed, as we can see here, and it was a massive bubble, and it could keep collapsing even more if it takes out the lows here from a few weeks ago. Well, then we could get down even lower, down to below $3, maybe even down here, and let's see, we are down here almost at $2.5 really. Just a quick look at London Cocoa also, same here, 2000 here, that is the key support. It dipped a little bit below, but I think we will see it sliding lower. All right, let's have a look at some others while we are at it. Cotton seems to be on a very strong bullish trend. Expect a little bit of a setback, but a strong bullish trend. Gold crosses 55 above the 200, all rising 55 above 100 there. Positive sentiment, no divergence, indicating the higher levels. Same picture on the weekly, and we could draw a trend line and we could see it pushing up to around the 74, 75, where we then had the 200 weekly moving average coming down. So in this region around here, there could be some strong resistance. Rough rise, well, a rough rise, a little bit of sideways. If it takes out the peaks here from the past few weeks, then I expect the push higher towards the 12 level, even the 13. I'm not quite sure about that, but it's starting to build an uptrend, but it is not that convincing, this counter trend there. And I think we will stop with that. That was my first pure commodity update, and there will be more in the future. They will be here occasionally. So, but of course, when we're talking about gold and the silver market and the energy market, there will be more frequent, more or less daily. All right, have a nice day and keep charting out there.